hurts him. But at the same time, it's going to be interesting now to see how he is able to get Texas Tech to rebound from that, especially going up against Baylor.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And, Baylor, interesting matchup next week. Like I said, Texas Tech should win that game, but Baylor's got a pretty good quarterback in that, Big 12-laden quarterback country. So it'll be interesting. I think the bounce back is absolutely important for Texas Tech, and I think Mike Leach, I think it's going to pretty much come up to him, Ryan, in terms of what he wants to do, because I do think there will be job opportunities out there, and it's like anything else. Do you want to go, is the grass always greener on the other side? Do you want to go to that bigger program, or do you want to stay in that, burgeoning program at Texas Tech and try to make it something in the Big 12? We've seen it with Gary Pinkel. We've seen it with Mike Mangino. They chose to stay put in their respective programs in the Big 12. And it's not to say they're not going to leave at some point, but, they're kind of cutting their teeth there. So it'll be interesting.
And I'm glad you mentioned Gary Pinkel because I think that deal he got from Missouri, the $2.5 million raise that he got on top of his contract extension, I seriously think that deal right there is kind of going to hurt Texas Tech a bit because Leach now sees that. He's going to be knocking on their door saying, hey, guys, I kind of got us as the number 2 team in the nation.
Yeah.
Now he's got some pull to go with as well. So, Missouri locking down their coach, but now, Leach has some falling back on. He's got substance as well now to kind of negotiate his big deal. And Brian Kelly, 1 win away from winning the Big East. 1 win. All they got to do is beat Syracuse, who did defeat Notre Dame, and then their fans just go ahead and go start.
I learned one thing. Notre Dame fans will throw snowballs when they get pissed enough.
Oh, jeez, man. That was horrible. What a backlash from your fan base for your fans to all of a sudden just launch snowballs.
Yeah, and you don't think there's trouble at Notre Dame?
Oh, man.
There's trouble there.
That was embarrassing. I don't know what was more embarrassing.
That program's in trouble.
I don't know what was more embarrassing. The fact that they lost to Syracuse or the fact that their fans just started pelting them with snowballs. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't just snow. I'm pretty sure there's maybe some other things that are kind of packed in those snowballs.
I've never seen a scenario like that. I've seen a few years ago, I think it was the Jets and San Diego, where they were throwing snowballs onto the field, not necessarily at the Jets. It was more at the San Diego players, and I think we've seen it even up in Cincinnati before, the same type of scenario. But that was the first time I've ever seen the home team pelting their players with snowballs. It's just absolutely bizarre situation. But back to your Big 12 point, Ryan, you're right. I think the Pinkel deal does make things interesting. And I also think in terms of coaches, I think you also got to look at Gundy.
Oh, Mike Gundy,
from Oklahoma State. He could possibly be a candidate. Again, for these guys, they're so young in their coaching careers. Do they want it? The Big 12 is going to be competitive for the next couple of years if all these guys stay put. So do they want to try to stay there and make an even bigger name for them? Or like I said, is the grass always greener on the other side? Do you take that bigger program, and to tie it in, look at Charlie Weiss. To take that big job up at Notre Dame, it's not going too spectacularly for him right now.
No, it was a good start, but not now. Yep. But, you look at jobs right now that's going into the next season. The 2 biggest ones that are going to be on the list right now is Tennessee and Washington. I think those are the 2 programs that they are definitely looking at. Elwood brings up an interesting point, saying that, this is a type of business where it's, what have you done for me now lately? So he thinks that loss would hurt him today, and that's a fair enough argument. But really, you look at what he's done. Every year has been an improvement. I don't think anybody thought that Texas Tech was going to be competing for a national championship.
No, and if I can for a moment, I think it's very similar. Just speaking off of last year with Kansas, same scenario. That was a rare season, and it when you have those, it definitely puts your team in the spotlight. But you're right, Ryan. Nobody expects that, so when you get it, it puts you in a different realm.
Well, ask this too. Ask this question too. Out of that state, Texas alone, you see how many schools they have. Who draws the biggest recruits?
Sure, Texas.
So you have that to compete with. You have Oklahoma to compete with as well. Tennessee, sure, it's an SEC program, and they got to contend with the Floridas and stuff like that, but that has been a program that's always been competing in the top. It's nowhere near what it is now.
Yeah.
So that's a program that can draw some recruits. And what would be, right now, what would be a bigger attraction for recruits? Would it be Texas Tech or Tennessee?
I mean, obviously, I think Tennessee, because it is just the bigger name program, and you're going up against, the SEC. That's a tough conference, one of the best conferences in the country. So you're definitely going to be showcased in that grand scale. Yeah, I mean, you're right. When you put Texas, a couple of years ago, Chris Sims had the choice between Texas and Tennessee, and he chose Tennessee. So, when you put the two glamour programs up against each other, that might win. But when you put like a second or third tier program like Texas Tech up against a Tennessee, Tennessee will probably win. But I think the thing is there are certain expectations that come with Tennessee, and there are certain expectations that come with Texas Tech. Which do you want to embrace, and do you want to personally take on the challenge, even though it may be more hours and more work? Do you personally want to take on that challenge of making Texas Tech on that same equal level as Texas in the Big 12? Huge.
But how much
huge order.
How much more attractive does that Tennessee scholarship look if a coach like Mike Leach, what you've seen from Texas Tech, what he's done with that program, now he's the head coach at Tennessee. How much more of an attractive scholarship is that for recruits? Hey, I've seen what this guy did with Texas Tech. He's kind of a big name. Now he's going to Tennessee, and he's going to run offenses that's going to compete with the Floridas, the LSUs, the Alabamas, the Georgias. I would definitely take that. Definitely, if I was a recruit looking to go somewhere,
Yeah, it's a tough call, because then you start to think, is he ready? Is he and his game planning and his play calling ready to take on the Urbans, the
Sabins,
the
Miles,
South
the
Carolina
Ricks,
guy, I'm thinking
Spurrier.
Is he going to be ready for that? It's going to be week in, week out. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm by no way disparaging the coaches in the Big 12, because there's a lot of good young coaches there also. But it's tough, Ryan. I mean, from a scholarship standpoint, I think that if you're going in as a starter, the scholarship at Tennessee is more appealing. Now, if you're going to go in and you're going to be on the bench at Tennessee, well, then maybe you do want to take your chance at going to Texas Tech and getting more starting time. But if I'm heads up starter for starter, you're probably looking at the history of the Tennessee football program is going to be the bigger lure.
407-788-0479. That's the phone number if you want to jump in and talk about